The console version of this game is considerably different and will have its own review in a separate video. Now, I know I haven't even come close to covering the console version yet. I wanted to point this one out in specific because I think it's a little special. Battle for Volcano Island is a quaint, yet very surprising platformer. SpongeBob, Danny, Timmy, and Patrick, of all character choices, get teleported to an island, Volcano Island, without explanation. Soon they learn they were summoned to fulfill a prophecy. After a simple tutorial level to teach the basics, you're set free to rescue the remaining two characters and defeat the evil Magoo. Obviously, they can't just do that, so they build a whatever this is to contact Jimmy, who sends them blueprints to a weapon that would very quickly deal with our threat, but it has to be built using parts found on the island. From here, the game plays out as a very simple 2D platformer, frankly perfect for the GBA. The sprite art is small, yet incredibly expressive and animated. One of the better examples of sprite art on the GBA, I find. Now, we're gonna analyze this like people analyze Super Mario 3D World. You know, the cycle of introduce mechanic, lets the player interact with it in a safe space, start ramping up the difficulty, then mix with other mechanics. Because this game does that a lot. It introduces the mechanic, lets you use it in a safe area, then starts putting you over spikes, then has you switching between many of the mechanics. It goes beyond that too. Early on in the first level, Danny gets a power-up that lets him see ghost blocks and collide with them when intangible. So you go through the level with just one block type going through the whole gameplay cycle, then you get the power up and the cycle begins anew with a whole other added mechanic to a previously simple one. They don't forget about it either. I'd say it's one of the most used mechanics. Before you know it, you're being asked to switch modes mid-jump to make them. Sometimes even as a puzzle, since only Danny can see the blocks. There must be some way to get that. Oh, if you switch to Danny, there's blocks to stand on. SpongeBob's bubble attack is weak, only one enemy in the game can be defeated, and to ramp the difficulty up on that, sometimes they even put them in areas you can't reach. But it also activates switches, which has you play with holding the button for shorter and longer amounts of time. After you unlock Timmy, he can use magic to stretch his limbs and go rocking from hanging rungs. What did I write? After you unlock Timmy, he can use magic to stretch his limbs to sling himself from hanging rungs, of which the player is taught of two different types. Red activation switches and gold standard ones. And also an important lesson is you don't have to full send anything. Timmy stays in place so you can tap the D-pad to move slightly and adjust to get the specific control over how you want to get flung. The control overall is very responsive and precise. Every button on the GBA is used fully. L is the button for switching characters, important for when the difficulty ramps up to integrate powers from every hero. However, the game never puts you in a situation where you need to switch in a rush. You always have even the smallest area to rest and get your bearings to switch and then continue. The platforming in this game never fails to disappoint. There are very few moments in this game where the level design is particularly uninteresting. One example comes to mind, but let's save that for later. I haven't even gotten to the hub world yet. The world is divided into several themes which can be reached through the hub world, which is a level in of itself where you have to explore to find where to go next. It's never too obscure to find where to go next, as it's usually wherever the power you just unlocked leads or the blockade you just cleared. Each theme has 4 levels. One level as an introductory to a gimmick where you're led through the level with what you have, then get brought back through it with a whole new context with the new power-up. And then 3 more that expand upon the ideas and add more difficulty and previous abilities to the mix. Every level ends with a rip zipper part. You do not need to collect all of them. It's like Mario 64 where you can do only the levels you want since you don't need every single one. This only really manifests as the ability to skip 2 levels though if you aren't counting the bonus ones. With how this game plays as such titles as Super Meat Boy and Celeste, I could very much think of this game as a sort of beginner versions of these games. The base game is quite forgiving, 5 hearts, a restored heart at every checkpoint, no insta-kill hazards, and even these golden hearts for extra hits. But there's also a little something for those of us who aren't tiny baby children. Those gold hearts aren't just health. They are full collectibles. Collectibles that you lose if you get hit. Meaning, yes, to get all 5 hearts in a stage, you need to complete it without getting hit once from the moment you collect the first heart until the end. And while that may be enough on its own, the hearts can be located just open for the grabs, slightly off the path with occasional clever use of a power, or entire small dedicated challenges, or a combination of the last 2 ones. It can be rather tough to get away with a couple of these sometimes, and require good understanding of how the abilities work. That's why it's important to know that you can be slow and precise with Timmy's sling, SpongeBob's drill, and even Patrick's glide. But of course you may wonder what all these hearts lead up to. Hidden well in the island are blockades that take hearts rather than rip zipper pieces. Behind them are a couple secret levels which are more difficult than others. And after getting all the hearts in those, you unlock one final blockade. A big slab that says 100% and says congrats. It's better than nothing at all, but this is rather anticlimactic, isn't it? It's there. You did it. Congrats? But it's not just enough for the level design to hit, the music kind of blasts it out of the park too. The composer, Andrew Kernick, has his own YouTube channel, Beat Therapy. There he is in the credits, credited as Beat Therapy, where he speaks on music and sometimes on music in the games industry. I recommend you check it out. He has a video on an unused track from this game. He's uploaded stereo mixes of many of the game's tracks, and I'll use them if possible, so you may hear his audible watermark in some tracks. There's a variety of tracks ranging all sorts of themes for each area. The beach? You bet. Underground tones? You got it. Desert? If that isn't the best remix of a desert theme ever, I don't know what is. After all this, only one thing is left. The final boss. That was incredibly underwhelming. By far the weakest thing about this game is the final boss. It's a somewhat basic platform level where you climb to the top of the volcano to get a full charge out of the rib zipper. You get the final power up, which is required to get 100% here, so you do have to finish it, but the evil Magoo that we spend the whole game building up just sits there in the background. He occasionally makes these barely in the way beams that you have no chance of getting caught off guard by, and drops some meteors that you just have to dodge the shadows of. Afterwards, we just get some congrats and they go home. And credits. This makes the 100% reward look good. It's sad that while the meat of the game is certainly some of the best I've played on the GBA, wrapping it all up, no matter how far you go, just feels anticlimactic. I feel perhaps development is rushed and there wasn't any time to put together much more without taking away from other levels, and if so, then I'd certainly prefer it this way. Even with a lackluster ending, I find this not to be only one of the best licensed games on GBA, but one of the better GBA games, period. I'd recommend anybody interested in what I've shown tonight to please give this game a play. It's just sad none of the other Nicktoons games on the GBA could turn out this way. So go on, enjoy this little gem of a GBA platformer. Hi, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed me as much as I enjoy this game. Please leave a comment, I love reading them. And if you want, you can see my other Shovelware Extraordinaire videos. There's a link to the playlist here and some Jimmy Neutron stuff. Also, I have a Discord